guys, this is a segment from the Slumpbuster Podcast. You can find the full episode on any of the various podcast platforms, or, of course, subscribe to us on YouTube for more of our content. Other than that, guys, sit down, bust a slump, and enjoy. You talked about that first round. I didn't really see it as Khabib losing that one. I thought that for starters, he had that big takedown at the end of the round. He almost got a triangle choke at the end there in the last 10 seconds. So you can say Gaethje was saved probably by the clock in that circumstance. You can tell the Gaethje strategy was simple. I'm going to keep my distance to kind of neutralize the ability for Khabib to take me down. I'm going to lower my stance so it wasn't as straight stand and bag as Gaethje likes to do. And he did land some nice leg kicks, got Khabib with a couple pops, but Khabib got some decent strikes of his own, I noticed in that first round. And I think that the game plan for Gaethje was definitely disrupted. He did have a decent stuff of a double leg takedown on Khabib earlier, but he was never able to maintain it. The superior wrestling talent of Khabib just eventually showed through. And that's saying a lot because Gaethje is not a scrub in terms of his wrestling ability. I know he has that crazy statistic that he's never attempted a takedown in his MMA career. But at the same time, if you look at his actual background, the guy's a stud wrestler. And he looked like a child to Khabib in that second round. Khabib was literally, so he went for the double leg takedown. And there was a moment in which I thought Gaethje could have stuffed it. Khabib just powered through, put him on his back, triangle choke, bye, match over. Dre, how did you see it?
No, I thought the exact same thing. So there's, like I said, there's some arguments where some people are like, oh, well, Gaethje was getting the better of the exchanges on the feet, which I do think that Gaethje overall is probably the better striker than Khabib. Khabib has never been a very crisp or clean striker from a technique standpoint, though he does actually pack a little bit of power. And we saw that in the McGregor fight, right, is that the one knockdown in the fight actually came from Khabib to McGregor when a lot of people thought it would be the other way. And so, yeah, so I would say Gaethje was maybe getting a little bit better of the exchanges when it came to overall striking, right? Like you said, he mixed it up a lot more. We know that Gaethje is a very crisp, clean striker anyways. But yeah, Khabib's game plan, though, I mean, you could just tell that even though Gaethje was able to stuff one of those takedowns or two of those takedowns, it wasn't going to last very long. And especially once we got to, the second, it was all going to be over. And once Khabib, literally as long as he's attached to you, you're getting taken down at some point, right? And it's crazy that he can do that against guys that have been All-Americans in college for wrestling, right? And I would like to actually see Khabib compete at the world level for wrestling, right? And freestyle, I don't think we ever see it, but I think he's that good at takedowns and that he could probably compete with, world level freestyle wrestlers. And so I thought that, he had control the entire time. I knew it was a very much a Khabib fight. And then towards the end, Khabib displayed almost the perfect MMA Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And what I mean by that is a lot of people have, argued, how practical is it to really learn Brazilian jiu-jitsu, like in the streets and all that stuff, right? Because you don't really want to pull guard. I know there's a lot of BJJ athletes, right, that as soon as the whistle blows, the match starts, they sit to their butt, they pull guard, right? They're not all the time laying on their back, but they're comfortable laying there on their back or whatever. And that's why there's even been arguments of people like, how much do you really need to focus on jits when it comes to MMA even? Why not just strike and do, wrestling? Well, Khabib was able to take his Brazilian jiu-jitsu and executed it perfectly. He got, there was sort of this transition from back to mount, and then he went to an S mount, then a high S mount. That high S mount is when like that knee was next to the shoulder and the other foot was draped over either by the armpit or across the neck. And that's where he transitioned it straight into that triangle, right? Or he could have gone arm bar. He could have done a million things from there. And I think, like I said, that's the perfect example of how you actually utilize Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when it does come to MMA, is that you don't put yourself in these bad situations like maybe sports Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu where you roll to your back and, you're trying to go for, let's say, a weird, crazy triangle choke and you end up underneath, right? Or a weird arm bar and you're getting punched in the face. You stay on top, you stay dominant, but then you slowly transition to whatever it is that you want. And by the time that he was rolling for that triangle choke, he had it locked up. It was going to be over anyways, no matter what. And so overall, I just thought it was excellent. It was just mastery on Khabib's part.
Mastery, dominance, and a very emotional win for the champion too. Obviously, he lost his father in recent months. That human spirit, speaking to you, seeing him break down in tears after getting that win, it's huge. So, I mean, if this is the last time we see Khabib, it's a great note to go out on. I always like when champions push it to a nice round number, like 30, but yes, we'll see if this is the last we see of Khabib. You never know, especially with the world of fighting. That leaves a void at lightweight. Conor McGregor opened as the favorite via Vegas to take that championship strap. You still have Dustin Poirier down there. Gaethje's, I'm sure, is going to want to say something about it. He was obviously just the interim champion. Ferguson is throwing his name out there. He was actually sixth most likely. What do you think is the next matchup? And yeah, who's our next lightweight champion?
So personally, I think that they're going to go with Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier. That matchup is going to be the one where whoever wins out of that gets the belt, right? And my thinking on that is it's purely business. Like Gaethje was a good fighter. He had that sort of interim belt, right, that was unified with the Khabib fight. But Gaethje himself isn't necessarily the most marketable either. Maybe to like your blue collar, pick yourself up by the bootstraps type American citizen, right? But he doesn't have that pizzazz that a Conor McGregor has. And so we've also seen that McGregor's beaten Poirier before. Now, granted, you can argue that there was some hits to the back of the head. Do I think that really made a difference? Not really. I think Conor probably would have won anyways. So I think if I'm Dana, that's the fight that I would bet on. And I would bet that Conor wins that fight and gets the belt back. That also makes Conor that triple, not triple, right? But still a double champ kind of, right? He's held the 145, he's held the 155, he gets the 155 back. So I think that's the fight that probably will be the belt next. As far as what ends up happening, I agree. I think Conor beats Dustin Poirier again, especially Conor was looking pretty good at 170. So I see Dustin losing that fight. I think Gaethje and Michael Chandler would be a really interesting fight. So they just signed Michael Chandler. I forget which organization he's coming over from, but he was another one of those sort of everybody thought, okay, this guy can probably compete in the UFC, right? And we've seen that in the fact that Chandler dismantled like Benson Henderson, who was a former UFC champ. So I actually think Chandler has a good shot at winning the belt at some point in the future, as long as he can continue to perform at the level he has been. So I'm really excited for him. And then, of course, never count out Ferguson either, right? I think Ferguson in, the last fight that he lost to Gaethje, did he kind of get handled? Yes. But for some dumb reason, he also cut weight 2 times within, like 2 weeks. And I think, if he cleans that up, we can see a different Ferguson.
Well, if we see McGregor win it, I could see him pushing to try and get Khabib out of retirement for that last hurrah fight that he's been striving for a while. And then beyond that, perhaps if once that falls through, because I don't think Khabib's going to come out for Conor. He's said as much. I could see Gaethje trying to vie to fight Conor. And I think that could be a fun matchup because both guys are really talented strikers and will really push each other. And then Ferguson has an outside chance, as you mentioned, as we're talking about. But I think, unfortunately, his star got really killed, especially because he only fights once a year now at this point. That could be his fault. That could be Dana's fault. But the bottom line is he doesn't fight enough to recover from losses like he had against Gaethje. And I think that that's why some of the shine is lost, especially because he lost his biggest fight against Khabib. And he's obviously fuming about it because I saw him basically say Khabib pussied out. But dude, you lost. You would have had that fight had you not lost to Gaethje. That's your fault. No sympathy there.
No, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
One last thing that I'll add with Khabib, too, about the whole will he come out of retirement, right? There's been arguments of like, will he come out of retirement for GSP? Will he do it for Conor? Will he do it for, Ferguson or whatever? I don't think so. And just to, sort of put a bow on this, I don't think we ever see Khabib come back for several reasons. One, like he is a genuine, like he cares about his religion, he cares about his family. And when his father passed away, he said, like, I don't want to do it anymore without my dad. And, from any other fighter, you might say, oh, he'll be back. But I think Khabib 100% is genuine in the fact that he cares about his religion, he cares about his family. We saw how personal he took it, right, when Conor and Conor's team was talking crap about his family and religion. So that's one reason. The other reason, too, right, is Conor McGregor goes in and out of retirement because, there's the whole, well, does he need money, right? He's blown through money pretty quick. You see other fighters, right, like the Tito Ortizes and the Rampages that fight at 40 years old or whatever because they need money again. With Khabib, he's going to Russia, and we know how Russia treats like their fighters and wrestlers that do really well. The dude's going to be set for life. If he ever needs a job, Vladimir Putin's got it for him, right? Like he's being taken care of in Russia. He's going to be infamous for the rest of his life, all of eternity in Russia. So I don't think we ever see Khabib fight ever again.